Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Donald Trump has effectively killed the H-1B visa. He slapped a fee of $100,000. Why is he doing this? What does it mean for the current visa holders? Who will be the hardest hit? And how are companies reacting? Also, will this spell the end of the American dream? We'll break it down for you tonight. Also in focus, America bids farewell to Charlie Kirk, Trump's controversial ally and activist. It was a memorial that looked more like a political rally. Back in India, the GST reform has kicked in. We'll tell you what it means and how it may supercharge India's states. Meanwhile, Russia pokes NATO again, this time by breaching the airspace of Estonia. We'll decode the pattern for you. Also look at why Bangladesh's economy is collapsing. Did Pakistani Air Force bomb a village in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa? How Trump is cracking down on the US media and why no Western power is questioning it. And finally, why Italy wants its cuisine to be declared UNESCO heritage. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Canada arrests a key aide of Khalistani terrorist Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. This follows a meeting between the National Security Advisors of India and Canada. The two countries are trying to reset ties, which were strained during Justin Trudeau's tenure. Pannu's aide was arrested last year as well in connection with an attack on a Hindu temple. Tens of thousands of people protest across Italy. The demonstrations were to denounce the genocide in Gaza. It also included transport strikes and port blockades. This comes as France and other countries prepare to recognize a Palestinian state at the United Nations General Assembly. Rome has said that it will not do so for the time being. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un says he has, and I'm quoting, he has fond memories of Donald Trump and is open to future talks with the US, but only if he can keep his nuclear arsenal. During Trump's first term, Kim met him thrice, but talks collapsed in 2019 over Pyongyang's atomic weapons. Super Typhoon Ragasa lashes northern Philippines, triggering storm alerts across East and Southeast Asia. Schools and offices have been closed across Manila and Luzon. The typhoon is now on a collision course with southern China. Taiwan and Hong Kong are also on high alert. And Egypt's president pardons a prominent activist who has been in jail since 2019. The British Egyptian national was a leading figure in the 2011 uprising. His mother had recently ended a 10-month hunger strike demanding his release.
Is raise the fee that companies pay to sponsor H-1B applicants to $100,000.
You hire Americans.
Donald Trump has widened his trade war with India. So far, it was limited to goods, but now Trump is expanding it to services. His target, the crucial H-1B visa program. Trump has imposed a hefty fee on this visa, $100,000 per person. That is the fee, $100,000 per person. That's around 88 lakh Indian rupees. And this could be a big blow to the Indian services sector, especially the IT industry. An industry that is worth more than $250 billion. The question is, why is Trump targeting the H-1B? Who will it impact? And how is India reacting? As you may know, the H-1B is a special type of US visa. It allows American companies to hire immigrant workers, specifically skilled workers, maybe IT professionals or surgeons or financial experts. This visa system was created in the 1990s. Today, it offers up to 85,000 visas per year, 85,000 H-1B visas issued every year. And Indians dominate this field. Around 71% of the H-1B recipients are Indians. China comes second with 12% of the visas going to the Chinese. And this system has helped both sides. Indian professionals get more job opportunities, US companies get efficient labor. So why is Trump targeting it? Let me quote from his executive order. The H-1B visa program has been deliberately exploited to replace rather than supplement American workers with lower paid, lower skilled labor. The large-scale replacement of American workers through systemic abuse of the program has undermined both our economic and national security. As always, it's an exaggeration. Yes, there have been complaints about the H-1B, but a national security threat? Well, that's just rhetoric. This move is more political than strategic. Trump's MAGA base has always complained about the H-1B. It ties into their long-standing complaint that foreign workers are replacing American workers, that immigration is costing American jobs. It's a complaint with obvious racist undertones. We saw that earlier this year. Hardcore MAGA groups asked Donald Trump to ban the H-1B. But newer Trump supporters pushed back. The likes of Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, they pushed back, and we thought that conversation was behind us. But suddenly it's back in the news. Maybe it's a distraction from the whole tariff fiasco, or maybe from the Epstein files backlash. Whatever the reason, Trump has put the focus back on H-1B, and yet he has not banned the program. He has not scrapped it. He has only curbed it. If you want an H-1B visa, you must now pay $100,000, so companies will think twice before hiring. Should we pay $100,000 to bring foreign talent, or should we just hire Americans?
The country would rather not have to pay $100,000, but they'd rather, how do you do that? You hire Americans. So there's an incentive to hire American, but there may be instances where it's better off doing it through expertise or whatever it may be. But they're both unbelievable, whether it's a gold card or anything else that we talked about today.
Let's focus on that fee. Before Sunday, before this announcement, the H-1B cost was $2,000 to $5,000. Now it has been raised to $100,000. And how often do you have to pay this? Just when you apply, every year, or every time you renew your visa? That became a new point of confusion. While announcing it, Trump's Commerce Secretary was very clear. He called it an annual fee.
Well, they're $100,000 per year. That's the policy here, $100,000 a year for H-1B visas, and all of the big companies are on board. Renewals, first times. The company needs to decide, do they want, is that person valuable enough to have $100,000 a year payment to the government? The whole idea, it's annual, and it's for total, it can be a total of 6 years. So $100,000 a year.
Not once, not twice. The Commerce Secretary said it 4 times. He called the fee an annual payment. He also said it would apply to visa renewals. But hours later, the White House issued a clarification. They highlighted 3 key points. Number 1, this is not paid annually. The $100,000 is a one-time fee. Number 2, those who already have the H-1B need not worry. Even if you're outside the US, relax. You won't be charged $100,000 to re-enter America. And 3, this applies only to new visas. It will not apply when you try to renew your H-1B if you're a current visa holder. Now, this confusion is strange. Either the Commerce Secretary was unaware of the rule, which is not a good look at all, or the White House backtracked after the backlash, which is also not a good look. Either way, this is a significant move. Maybe it's part of Trump's America First agenda. But the fact is, India will be caught in the crossfire. New Delhi has reacted to the statement. Let me quote from India's reaction. Skilled talent mobility and exchanges have contributed enormously to technology development, economic growth and wealth creation in the United States and India. This measure is likely to have humanitarian consequences by way of the disruption caused for families. So India has made 2 points. 1, the H-1B system is not a one-sided system. It created wealth in America as well. And number two, this will have humanitarian consequences. In fact, India's Commerce Minister went a step ahead. He said some countries were scared of Indian talent.
भारत से व्यापार बढ़ाना चाहते हैं, संबंध सुधारना चाहते हैं, थोड़ा बहुत हमारे टैलेंट से डरते भी हैं। उससे भी हमें आपत्ति नहीं है। हमारा टैलेंट भारत आके यहां इनोवेट करे, यहां डिजाइन करे और हमारी अर्थव्यवस्था तेजी से आगे बढ़ेगी।
The markets have reacted too. Like I said, India's IT firms have depended on this visa, so their shares plunged earlier today. Infosys was down around 2.5%. TCS lost almost 3%. Wipro was down more than 2%, and Tech Mahindra also around 3% down in today's trade. So the market verdict is quite clear. They are spooked by Trump's new order. The question is, what happens next? Well, there's a legal question mark over this order. On paper, only the US Congress can change visa rules. Then how did Donald Trump do it? By citing a so-called national security threat. So chances are this rule will be challenged in American courts. And we'll have to see how that goes. Plus, a lot depends on how US firms react. $100,000 is not a lot of money, especially for companies dealing in AI or semiconductors. Their output may justify the cost. But non-tech companies may have to rethink, like hospitals or research facilities. Their bottom lines may not be able to absorb this cost. The next couple of weeks will give us more clarity. Let's see how companies react.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the captain speaking. Due to the current circumstances, obviously they're unprecedented.
One of the biggest problems we have is that people get great marks and then they're thrown out of the country. You're not allowed to stay.
The past 48 hours have been chaotic. Trump's visa announcement set off panic. The first signs were visible at airports. Take a look at this.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the captain speaking. Due to the current circumstances, obviously that are unprecedented for us here at Emirates, we are aware that a number of passengers do not wish to travel with us, and that's perfectly fine. All we ask is that if you wish to offload yourself, you do so.
These passengers had boarded their flights, but many wanted to get off. They feared that if they leave the US, they may not be able to return, so they disembarked. Many of them were Indian H-1B visa holders. This is what Trump's move has done. It has disrupted lives and families, and it has rattled businesses. We'll start with the ones that are the worst hit. Broadly, three categories of people: students finishing their degrees in the US, workers who were directly recruited from India, and those who have petitions in US courts. These are workers who are not currently in the US, but they had filed petitions in courts for a visa. They're waiting to hear back. These three groups of people will face the biggest challenge going forward. Now, what about those who already have an H-1B visa? Those who are already living in the US on this visa. For now, they are safe. At least that's what the White House said over the weekend. There is no change in their visa status. The Trump administration says these people can travel freely, but their lawyers are advising against travel. They say the language of Donald Trump's orders is unclear, so why take the risk? Do not travel. In fact, some companies have issued advisories. They have asked their staff to not travel at all. This includes the likes of Amazon and Microsoft. They fear that the rules may not be applied uniformly at airports across America, which brings us to the companies that will be hit. Take Amazon. This year, they got 10,000 H-1B visas. Amazon got 10,000 visas for its people. Let's assume that they have to pay $100,000 for each visa now. At this rate, Amazon will have a visa bill of $1 billion. It's prohibitive. And it's not just American companies who will bear the brunt. Even Indian companies face extra costs. Take TCS, for example, Tata Consultancy Services. It is one of India's biggest IT companies. This year, it got 5,500 visas. TCS got 5,500 visas. If they seek a similar number next year, Their visa bill will touch $550 million. Again, it's unsustainable. It will bleed India's IT sector. Like I said, as of today, the sector is worth more than $250 billion, and half of their revenue comes from the US. This business is now under threat. It was already under strain. Indian firms had started hiring locally in the US. I'm talking about companies like Infosys, Wipro, Tech Mahindra. They had started hiring locally even before Trump changed visa rules. Because H-1B visas are limited, these companies filled many roles with local hires in the US. And now, as they face higher visa costs, they may have to cut back on hiring or take up fewer projects. Industry body NASSCOM has issued a warning. It says the new rules could lead to project delays and rising costs. And the bigger impact will be on the students in the US. 1 out of 4 international students in America are Indians. And many of them apply for the H-1B visa. They spend enormous amounts of money to study in the United States. Tuition fee alone can cost anywhere between $50,000 and $100,000. An H-1B visa is their path to a job and a future. Now that path has been blocked. Although experts say they still have some options. They could apply for a different category of visa like OPT, Optional Practical Training. This allows students who graduate from an American university to work in the US for up to 3 years, and while they're on the OPT visa, they can try their luck with the H-1B. They can also consider a different pathway, like seek an H-1B by applying for a position at an American university or a research body. Usually there is no cap on H-1B visas there, but those roles are limited. So competition will be fierce. Long story short, if you want to work in the US, you are in for tough days ahead. Trump's order is expected to face legal challenges. His opponents are already preparing lawsuits. They argue that the president cannot change the H-1B system. Only the US Congress can. But until the courts decide, there will be chaos. For most of the last century, the US did not just attract talent, it hoarded it. For some of the world's best minds, the United States was the endgame, a land where ambition met opportunity. Why? Because the land of immigrants sold one dream: come here, work hard, and make history, no strings attached. But today, that dream is starting to look a little frayed. Washington is demanding a $100,000 ticket just to get into the door. We've just told you about it. And while the US sees foreign talent as a threat, other countries see an opening. I'm talking about Europe, the UK, China. The Chinese have introduced a new visa category, the K visa. What's a K visa? You could call it China's H-1B. It is aimed at attracting young and talented professionals, especially in the field of STEM. That's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM. This new visa, the K visa, was approved in August. The system will come into effect on the 1st of October. And who can apply? China says, and I'm quoting, it is open to foreign, young, scientific, and technological talent. And here's what it promises. Number one, flexibility. It allows multiple entries, longer stay, and a provision to extend the duration of your stay. Number two, applicants do not need a Chinese employer or entity. Number three, visa holders can take part in business activities. They can be entrepreneurs. They can also take part in scientific exchanges. So Beijing's pitch is clear: skip the drama, pack your bags, and we'll give you ample opportunities. Of course, they're not the only ones doing this. The UK has a different strategy. It is abolishing visa fees. Prime Minister Keir Starmer is looking at some proposals. The plan is to scrap visa fee for top global talent. Starmer has set up something called the Global Talent Task Force. And this is the team working on the project. The UK wants the world's best scientists, academics, and digital experts to help them drive economic growth. Meanwhile, the Europeans are doing their own thing. For example, Germany has the EU Blue Card. It's a smooth, flexible pathway for highly skilled professionals. Finland offers a skilled worker permit. This too comes with fast-track approvals. Portugal has its own highly skilled visa. It is quick, flexible, and easy to get started. So different countries, different structures, but the same aim: attract the best talent from all over the world. This is how America was built. America's modern identity was shaped by imported talent. Look at their crown jewels: Google, Microsoft, IBM, all led by CEOs of Indian origin. Indian doctors make up nearly 6% of the US physician workforce. Foreign-born researchers, well, they drive patents, startups, and the very engine of Silicon Valley. So the H-1B pipeline was never just a visa category. It was the artery that kept America's innovation economy alive. But Washington is now singing a different tune. Its official line is familiar: protect American workers and stop wage undercutting. But the world does not work in isolation anymore. Every government knows this. Brains are the new oil. They fuel economies and industries. If one country blocks the path, another builds a highway. The US once built an empire of innovation by welcoming the world's best, by selling the American dream. Today, it risks building walls at a time when talent has more options than ever. So here's the question. With this prohibitive price tag, can America still sell the dream? Or will it now come with a Made in China label?
He's a martyr now for American freedom.
That young man, I forgive him.
Memorials are supposed to be somber. They're about loss and remembrance, but Charlie Kirk's memorial in Arizona was something else. It was a funeral service, a revival, and a political rally all at once. Charlie Kirk was shot dead earlier this month. We told you all about it. He was an American conservative activist, an ally of US President Donald Trump, and a very controversial man. On September 10th, he was shot dead at a university in Utah in front of thousands of people. A 22-year-old student has been charged with his murder. The news of his death sent shockwaves through American politics, and yesterday his supporters filled a football stadium. This was in Arizona. The stadium can hold 63,000 people. That's the capacity, 63,000. Every seat is said to have been filled. People gathered to remember him and to show the strength of the movement he built. The security was very heavy. Crowds arrived hours early, and the scene looked more like a mega church service than a memorial. It was quite a sight. Christian rock bands performed. Supporters wore red, white, and blue. Some carried wooden crosses, others waved different signs. So the blend of memorial service and politics was clear to see, and it set the tone for what was to come. Take a look. And if that was not enough, there were speeches. Several allies of Donald Trump spoke, and in the end, the US president delivered his remarks. He called Charlie Kirk a quote-unquote martyr for American freedom, and he promised to award him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Trump also blamed the so-called radical left for Charlie Kirk's murder. Listen in.
America is a nation in grief, a nation in shock, and a nation in mourning. Less than 2 weeks ago, our country was robbed of one of the brightest lights of our times, a giant of his generation, and above all, a devoted husband, father, son, Christian, and patriot. Charles James Kirk. He's a martyr now for American freedom. I know I speak for everyone here today when I say that none of us will ever forget Charlie Kirk, and neither now will history.
Trump's words made the memorial a partisan event. It was less about grief and more about shaping a political message. And yet, amid the rhetoric came a quieter moment. The president and Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica, embraced each other on stage. So while Trump talked politics, Erica Kirk struck a different note. She spoke about continuity and forgiveness. She said she would even forgive the man accused of Charlie Kirk's murder.
On the cross, our Savior said, that young man, on the cross, our Savior said, Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Many others spoke, but one speech stood out, the one delivered by Donald Trump's son. His name is Donald Trump Jr. He declared, "We are all Charlie." He even impersonated his father and joked about the president's anger over his posts on social media.
I'm not widely known for being a sentimental guy. Anyone who's seen me on social media knows I'm far more likely to crack a joke or get myself in trouble for posting some grossly inappropriate memes than I am to shed a tear. I know this because I've even gotten the call from that guy a couple times. You know, Don, you're getting a little aggressive on social media, Don. Relax.
Another highlight was the attendance of Elon Musk, the billionaire CEO who once worked with the Trump administration. Yesterday, he was seated right next to Donald Trump. It was their first public appearance together since their very public breakup. Earlier this year, they traded barbs, but this time they shook hands and talked. Musk later posted a photo with the caption, "For Charlie." The image stood out because it looked like a public truce. Whether that lasts is another question altogether. Meanwhile, beyond the politics inside the stadium, the legal process goes on. Tyler Robinson, the 22-year-old suspect, has been charged with murder. Prosecutors say that they will seek the death penalty. The courts will decide his fate, but the political story is moving faster than the legal one. Charlie Kirk left behind a legacy that still divides America. To his supporters, he's a martyr. To his critics, he was a voice of hate. And his memorial service captured that divide. A funeral, a religious revival, and a political rally all at once. It meant different things to different people. For US President Trump, it was a platform to blame his opponents. For his supporters, it was a show of unity and power. And for America, it was a reminder of how politics and violence often collide with deadly consequences. Now to India, where the big headline is the tax reform, the new Goods and Services Tax or GST regime. It has taken effect today. Taxes on 375 items have been reduced. Many businesses have announced price cuts. Others are offering more value for the same price. But this story is bigger than discounts. GST revenues are the backbone of India's states. Maharashtra's economy rivals South Africa. Tamil Nadu's income is on par with Vietnam. Uttar Pradesh's population matches Brazil. Together, 5 states generate half of India's output. With GST 2.0, their revenues could rise further. Our next report tells you how this reform could supercharge India's states.
The new GST has rolled out today. GST 2.0 is now in effect across India. Rates have been cut on more than 375 everyday goods. From food items to household products, prices are set to fall. The Finance Ministry has directed companies to pass on the full benefit. And GST officers will monitor monthly price changes. The goal is simple: cheaper goods for families and more ease of business for companies. In the run-up, companies moved early. Some gave steep discounts. Others offered vouchers or added more product at the same price. From today, more firms are expected to follow, which means lower prices are here to stay. Prime Minister Narendra Modi called it the GST Savings Festival. In a letter to the nation, he said lower GST rates mean more savings for every household.
ये रिफॉर्म भारत की ग्रोथ स्टोरी को एक्सेलरेट करेंगे, कारोबार को और आसान बनाएंगे, निवेश को और आकर्षक बनाएंगे और हर राज्य को विकास की दौड़ में बराबरी का साथी बनाएंगे.
But the impact of GST 2.0 goes beyond cheaper goods. It goes into the heart of India's economy, the states. India is a union of states, and each state is a major economy on its own. Maharashtra, for example, produces goods and services worth 35 trillion rupees a year. That is nearly $400 billion. This is according to data from last year. So if Maharashtra were a country, its economy would be the 40th largest in the world, roughly the size of South Africa. And Maharashtra is not alone. The next four largest states, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Uttar Pradesh, each have economies close to 25 trillion rupees. That's about $300 billion. Each one of them is the size of Portugal. Together, these 5 states drive more than half of India's economic output. They rival entire countries, and they show why GST collections matter so much. Take Tamil Nadu. Its per capita income is equal to Vietnam's. Take Uttar Pradesh. Its population is almost the size of Brazil. Take Karnataka and Gujarat. Their economies are larger than many European nations. This is the scale of India's federal economy. South and West India hold a third of the population, but they generate more than half the national output. GST 2.0 promises to lift their consumption further. According to a CRISIL report in July this year, the 18 largest states together make up over 90% of India's GDP. These states earned over 37 trillion rupees in revenue in FY25. That is expected to rise to nearly 40 trillion rupees in FY26. Revenue growth is likely to climb from 6.6% to between 7 and 9%. The rise will come from steady GST inflows and from central devolutions and grants. In short, GST is not just a tax. It is the lifeblood of state. For businesses, GST 2.0 means smoother compliance. For consumers, it means more savings. And for states, it means higher revenues. Small dealers and enterprises have flagged some transitional issues, especially with unused input tax credit. But early signs suggest companies are passing on benefits quickly. The festive season adds momentum. Cheaper goods could trigger higher demand, and that demand should potentially feed state revenues. India is often seen as one economy, but in reality, it is many economies stitched together. Together, they shape the nation's economic destiny. GST 2.0 gives them a stronger base to grow from. If GST 2.0 succeeds, consumption will rise, revenues will climb, and states should have more money to spend on welfare, infrastructure, and services. For families, it means cheaper shopping baskets. For businesses, more ease of trade. And for states, hopefully, more stability in their finances.
Imagine a kid tapping the glass of a fish tank, not smashing it, not breaking it, just tapping on the glass. The fish dart around, confused. This is what Russia is doing to the NATO right now. On Friday, 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets entered Estonian airspace. They stayed for 12 minutes. In response, NATO scrambled jets, and this led to widespread panic.
It was a very clear provocation. It was definitely meant like this, and that's why we are calling as well Article 4 political consultations, that if you put everything together, what has happened during the last couple of weeks, I mean as well the attacks against Poland with the 19 drones. So this is already a systematical NATO test, and that's why we asked that NATO allies.
This is not an isolated incident. It is part of a long pattern. First, it was Poland, then Romania, and now Estonia. All of them are NATO countries. So why is Putin tapping NATO's glass? What does he want? And what happens if the tank finally cracks? We'll start with Estonia. Like I said, 3 Russian jets entered the Estonian airspace. This was over the Gulf of Finland. Now you can see the map here. These jets remained in the Estonian airspace for 12 minutes. Estonia is a very small country. So 12 minutes is quite a long time. You can cover a good chunk of their territory in this period. Estonia detected the Russian jets. It had Italian F-35 fighters stationed in the country. It also had Swedish and Finnish planes. They were part of the NATO Air Force. Together they scrambled jets. And soon the Russian fighters were forced to flee.
If Russian fighter jets entering to the NATO airspace, so it is a threat. And also NATO responded in a very adequate ways. NATO fighters went up, and of course we had all the readiness to respond. But yes, happily they were escorted after 12 minutes out from NATO airspace.
Estonia has now called for consultations under NATO's Article 4. Article 4 allows any NATO country to call a meeting. It is invoked when a member feels threatened. It's serious, but not as much as Article 5. Article 5 is the Mutual Defense Clause. It says an attack on one NATO member is an attack on all. Nonetheless, a meeting under Article 4 is significant. It's a signal. It's a way of saying that this cannot be business as usual.
It is clear that Russia is testing how far they can go. And we had very intensive discussions about the international situation and also regarding Russia's actions, really. And of course, our plea is also to the countries that have more close relationship with Russia is to really call them on stopping this.
And what is Russia saying? Well, Moscow has obviously denied it. It says its jets flew over neutral waters of the Baltic Sea. So this was not an incursion. In fact, the Kremlin has accused NATO of false allegations. It says this is a way to flame tensions.
We have never heard the Estonian side mention that they possess any such objective control data. That's why we consider such claims to be empty, unfounded, and part of a completely reckless campaign to escalate tensions and provoke a confrontational atmosphere.
It is not the first time that this has happened. In the last 2 weeks, this is the third such incident. The first was in Poland, where Russian drones entered the airspace. Then there was Romania. Its airspace was also breached by Russian drones. And now it is Estonia. This time it's Russian jets. Like I said, all of these are NATO countries. Estonia was also part of the former Soviet Union. Together, they make up the eastern flank of NATO. So is this a threat to NATO? The US president was asked about it. He said, he doesn't love it.
Russian jets entered Estonia's airspace today for 12 minutes. Do you see that as a threat to NATO?
Well, I'm going to have to look at it. They're going to be briefing me in a short while, so I'll let you know about it tonight or tomorrow.
What's your take in general? Just being
I don't love it. I don't love it. I don't like it when that happens. It could be big trouble, but I'll let you know later. They're going to brief me in about an hour.
So why is Russia poking NATO? Well, it is classic psychological pressure. Romania and Estonia are among NATO's smallest states. They're already rattled by the war in Ukraine. So this builds more pressure on them. It keeps these countries on their toes and it keeps NATO in panic mode. And that's the point of this. Vladimir Putin is not looking to start World War III with a single jet or drone. He's looking to tap the glass. He wants to see the fish scatter, to measure how quickly NATO moves, how strongly it responds, and how united it really is. And what will NATO do? The UN Security Council is meeting over this. Meanwhile, Poland has issued a strict warning. It will shoot down any flying object that violates its airspace. France has deployed 3 Rafale jets. They will protect the Polish airspace. So NATO is acting. But NATO is also walking a tightrope. If it responds too lightly, Putin gains confidence. If it overreacts, the risk of escalation skyrockets. And that is the dilemma. Russia's taps on the glass will keep coming. The only unknown is how long before one of them hits hard enough to crack the tank. Let's turn to Bangladesh now, which is facing its worst financial crisis in decades. We are not the ones saying this. Bangladesh's own media is. It's a cocktail of bad loans, no reforms, and poor management. And the result? A success story in tatters. Bangladesh was on the rise in the last decade. Their average growth rate was 6.6%. The country was on its way to becoming a developing nation. So where did things go wrong? And has the interim regime made things worse? Let's look at the problem first. Bangladesh's banking system is on life support. The Asian Development Bank, ADB, is calling it the weakest in Asia. Just see the numbers. Loan defaults are piling up high. By the end of June, they stood at 6 lakh crore taka, which is around 49 billion US dollars. And those numbers will soon be updated. After that, the defaults will stand at 9 lakh crore taka, which is 74 billion US dollars. Imagine that, 74 billion is almost 15% of Bangladesh's GDP. So clearly, bad loans are out of control. Neighbors like India, even Pakistan, have done better. But Bangladesh is struggling. Last year, 20% of all loans led to defaults. That was 28% higher than the year before. And remember, the interim regime took power in August. So half of last year was their rule. And it's not just banks. Non-banking entities are struggling too. Around 20 of them are in really poor health. 83% of their portfolio is made up of defaulted loans. So the central bank has stepped in. They have asked 8 of these entities to liquidate. Now, if you look at the stock market, you'll see the same story. In the last 16 years, the market has shrunk by 38%. We usually talk about investors making money in stocks. In Bangladesh, it's the opposite. If you account for inflation, they have lost 3% annually. It makes you wonder what went wrong. Bangladesh was a booming economy. It was the poster child for the so-called third world. So what happened to it? Clearly, there were some structural problems. Take the case of banks. Officials say businessmen took out plenty of loans. They had the ability to repay it, but they chose not to pay, which is why the bad loans piled up. Now, to be fair, this did not happen overnight. It is the result of years of mismanagement. Then last year, the interim regime promised to fix it. Naturally, people had hope. After all, Mohammed Yunus is an economist. He specializes in microfinance and credit. So what has Yunus achieved in 13 months? It's one bitter pill after another. Under Mohammed Yunus, the economic growth has stalled. Look at the IMF data. In June last year, Bangladesh was expected to grow at by 6.6%. The actual growth was just 3.8%. So Yunus is presiding over a slowdown. He appears unable to fix the financial system, and this will have a knock-on effect. Bad loans can drag down the whole country. It can contaminate the national economy, and to make things worse, there is no political stability. Yunus has promised elections by February next year, February 2026, but his plans are unclear. Like, will he contest those elections? Or will he be a neutral referee? From the looks of it, Yunus is getting comfortable in his chair. As we speak, he has begun yet another foreign trip. His 13th trip in his 13 months as leader. This time he is heading to New York for the UN General Assembly, and it's quite a long trip too. He will arrive in New York later today, and he will return to Dhaka on the 2nd of October. This is an 11-day trip. The problem is, he doesn't have a case to present. Just imagine you're a foreign investor or the CEO of a top company. Will you jump to invest in Bangladesh right now? Or will you wait for the elections? Will you wait for clarity on policy and rules? Chances are you will wait, which is why interim rulers do not hang around for too long. Their job is to stabilize and step aside. By refusing to do that, Mohammed Yunus has made things worse. He alone is not responsible for this financial crisis, but he alone is delaying a solution for it. Our next story tonight takes us to Pakistan. A village in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has been bombed. Homes have been reduced to rubble. Several people, including children, have been killed. Local reports say it was an airstrike. They point to the Pakistan Air Force and their Chinese-made JF-17 fighter jets. They say the Air Force jets dropped Chinese bombs, but the police give a different version. They say it was not an airstrike. It was the Pakistani Taliban. Their explosives detonated inside a compound. Meanwhile, Islamabad remains silent. Opposition leaders say the military is responsible. Hundreds are protesting in the province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and the Human Rights Commission is calling for an inquiry. Our next report has more.
They woke to the sounds of bombs. A village in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa was blown apart at 2 a.m. Houses flattened, many children killed in their sleep. Local reports say Pakistani fighter jets struck Matridhara. The village lies in the Tira Valley. Reports say the Pakistan Air Force used JF-17 jets. They allegedly dropped Chinese-made LS-6 bombs, 8 bombs in total. The blasts ripped through the village in the valley. Some accounts put the toll at around 30 dead, all civilians. But officials told a very different story. Reports suggest that the police claimed there was no airstrike. They said a stock of bomb-making material exploded inside a compound. According to that version, 2 Pakistani Taliban commanders had set up the hideout. Police reportedly said the compound was used to make roadside bombs. That account said 24 people died. It included 14 militants and at least 10 civilians. And yet the Pakistani military and government remain silent. Meanwhile, opposition leaders in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa spoke out. One parliamentarian said security forces carried out the shelling. Another called it an attack on unarmed civilians. Soon after, protests erupted in the Tira Valley. Hundreds of people marched against the military. They demanded accountability. They called for justice for the victims. The Human Rights Commission of Pakistan also reacted. It said it was deeply shocked. It called for an impartial inquiry. But Pakistan's crackdowns in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa are nothing new. The province has long been targeted for military action against the Pakistani Taliban. According to the United Nations Security Council, the Pakistani Taliban is an alliance of formerly disparate militant groups that came together in 2007. It emerged after Islamabad's operations against Al-Qaeda-linked fighters. And this incident is not an isolated one. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has become Pakistan's frontline. The province allegedly recorded over 600 attacks in the first 8 months of 2025. At least 138 civilians have been killed. More than 350 have been injured. This month, the Pakistani Taliban ambushed Pakistani troops in South Waziristan. Unable to contain the violence, Pakistan has turned the blame on Afghanistan. Islamabad says Kabul shelters the Pakistani Taliban. The Taliban regime denies this. It says Pakistan's problems are of its own making. In the end, it is ordinary villagers who are trapped between militants who hide in their homes and a military that bombs without warning. Pakistan's own provinces are under siege. The same groups it once backed are striking its soldiers, and its answer appears to be aerial bombing of its own people. The facts remain disputed: airstrike or accident, civilians or militants. But one thing is clear: Pakistan's conflict in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is spiraling, and its people are paying the price.
Donald Trump loves press conferences, but he hates the press. And it's not a surprising development. We saw it during his first term as well. Trump would regularly clash with reporters. He would target them, he would mock them, and sometimes call them names. But this time, it's not limited to heated exchanges. This time, Trump is muzzling them. He's openly cracking down on the US media. Let me show you the latest instance. The Pentagon has issued a new memo for journalists. Now, the Pentagon is the US Department of Defense. Actually, scratch that. It's now the Department of War. I know the joke writes itself. A wannabe Nobel Peace Laureate renamed his defense ministry to War Ministry. Either way, back to the topic. The memo has a strict order for journalists. Do not gather or publish information without authorization. Doesn't matter if the information is classified or unclassified, you cannot publish it. All journalists have been asked to sign this pledge. If they refuse, they will be barred from the Pentagon. Basically, they will lose credentials. Listen to how the Pentagon chief explained it. I'm quoting, "The press does not run the Pentagon, the people do. The press is no longer allowed to roam the halls of a secure facility, wear a badge and follow the rules or go home." Now, this has not gone down well with the US media. Press organizations have hit back at the Pentagon. They're calling it a direct assault on independent journalism. And we agree, because we are talking about the US military. They are notorious for rights violations and excesses, and that was with independent media. Imagine them without oversight. It's a disaster waiting to happen. But like I said, it's not surprising. Trump has returned to office with a playbook for everything. He's not just clashing with the media, he's cracking down on them. And this strategy is threefold. First is limiting access. It became obvious very early into his second term. You may remember when he renamed the Gulf of Mexico, Trump decided to call it Gulf of America. No more Gulf of Mexico, call it Gulf of America. Now, most of the US outlets agreed to this change, but the Associated Press did not. AP. Associated Press, they have clients all over the world. Therefore, the Associated Press stuck to Gulf of Mexico. Trump's response? He barred them from the Oval Office. His second strategy is squeezing them financially. Trump has cut funding to public broadcasters. He has also filed lawsuits against top media firms. Now, most of these cases have led to settlements. CBS agreed to pay Trump $16 million. ABC News has agreed to pay $15 million. Last week, he also sued the New York Times. Guess how much money Trump was asking for? A whopping $15 billion. Which brings us to the last strategy. Using regulatory blackmail. And we saw that in the Jimmy Kimmel case. Kimmel hosted a late-night show on ABC. But last week, he was taken off air by the network. Why? Because of threats by the US broadcast regulator. Kimmel had made comments about Charlie Kirk's murder, comments that Trump supporters did not like, and on cue, the regulator dropped a threat. He talked about so-called remedies for ABC, and within hours, Jimmy Kimmel was gone. This is a systemic attack on American mainstream media. And don't get me started on social media. All the tech bros have submitted to Donald Trump. They're racing to flatter him. Yet there is no global condemnation. No Western country is lecturing the Trump administration. No world leader is raising the issue with Trump. Why? Because it's the United States of America. Because it's not some Asian or African country. It exposes the double standard, the Western double standard. They do not care about the rights or their violations. They only care about where it's happening. That's why there is silence on America's gun deaths, on their abortion bans, and on their crackdown on the media. It's hypocrisy of the highest order. Our last story tonight comes from Italy, one of the culinary capitals of the world. Even though Italian cuisine is widely loved and mimicked by thousands of people every day with ketchup on pizza or cream and carbonara sauce, Italy is worried that it is losing its culinary traditions. So now it wants to protect the food. The Italian government has launched a bid to give its cuisine UNESCO heritage status. UNESCO is the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. It protects and preserves cultural heritage the world over. And Italy wants its cuisine to join this list. But is this just about sentimentality? Or is there more to this story? Have other countries done this before? Also, how else has Italy tried to protect its food? Here's a report.
The Italians have a phrase, il piacere della tavola. It literally means the pleasure of the table. But simply put, it refers to the joy of a sit-down meal, like gathering around with your family, and probably arguing over who gets the last slice of pizza. It's seemingly endless food and endless chatter. For centuries, this has been a beloved tradition in Italy. But times have changed. Lives are busier, families are smaller, and now Sundays are less about giant lunches and more about scrolling through Instagram. In a country where Sunday lunch was basically a national celebration. Seriously, shops were closed, businesses were shut. The Italians are treating this shift like it's a national culinary tragedy. So, the government has launched a bid. They want Italian cuisine to get the UNESCO heritage status. UNESCO stands for the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. It works to protect and preserve cultural heritage across the world. And the Italian government is pushing to have Italian cuisine recognized as an intangible cultural heritage. But what's behind this? Is Italy being greedy? After all, this country is basically the Monica Bellucci of the UNESCO list. It has the largest number of sites classified as UNESCO heritage in the world. 61 of them have made it to the list. It also has 19 intangible heritages. From the traditional bell art to the practice of opera singing. And now, Italians want food to join the party. After all, it is their amore. If you've ever Googled Italians mad at food, you know what's coming. Things like breaking spaghetti before cooking it, sacrilege, putting pineapple on pizza, the horror, adding cream to carbonara sauce. We don't even want to talk about that one. What the rest of the world calls creative liberty, most Italians call food blasphemy, accompanied by a flurry of hand gestures that could direct traffic. In fact, in 2023, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni made headlines by trying to protect the pronunciations of Italian food. Her party wanted to fine people around $100,000 for saying bruschetta instead of bruschetta. Or remember when the American pizza giant Domino's tried to conquer Italy? After 7 long years of trying to convince Italians that fast pizza was a thing, they threw in the towel and closed shop in 2022. Because when you are in Italy, pizza isn't just pizza. It's basically a religion. And Italian food isn't just food. It's family, culture, pride. But sentimentality aside, it is also a big business. Meloni says that the Italian cuisine is worth around $300 billion worldwide. So she wants it to be recognized. Maybe the right way. And if it is, this won't be a first. UNESCO's list of intangible cultural heritage has some 50 culinary items, not dishes, but culinary practices passed down generations, with traditional ways of cultivation, preparation, and consumption, like the craftsmanship of the French baguette, the preparation and consumption of Peruvian ceviche, even the art of the Neapolitan pizzuolo. Now, Italy wants UNESCO to make space for its entire cuisine. For the sake of tradition, yes, but also with the hope of bidding pasta alla vista to some painful culinary mimicries.
Yesterday was part 2 of Pakistan's humiliation. They faced India at the Asia Cup again, and once again they lost. Thank God the match was telecast live. If not, Pakistan may have spinned the loss as a victory. And this time, tempers ran high. One Pakistan batter celebrated his 50 with this gesture. He turned his bat into a gun. Another player mimicked falling airplanes. He was alluding to alleged Indian jet losses against Pakistan. Basically, their players did everything except win. It's the story of Pakistan. Their army does not win wars, their politicians do not win elections, and their cricketers do not win matches. But sure, full marks for the Mono Act.
बिजली का झटका देने के मारता है। बिजली चली जाती है ना तो इन्वर्टर ऑन करके मारता है। तुम मत रो बेटा, तुम इनसे पूछो। संडे वाली बात बताओ इनको।
ये वाली संडे या वो पिछली वाली संडे?
And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. In Peru, protesters rally against the government and clash with the police. In France, towns fly the Palestinian flag despite government orders ahead of state recognition. In Europe, torrential rains wreak havoc across Spain, France and Italy. And finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1965, the second India-Pakistan war came to an end. The war broke out when the Pakistani army attempted to take Kashmir by force. The conflict lasted more than 3 weeks, and its end was seen as a strategic and political defeat for Pakistan. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Is raise the fee that companies pay to sponsor H-1B applicants to $100,000.
You hire Americans.